Okay, we already talked about using trig ratios and how do we find them and what are they. Now we're going to take one that we have. We have this ratio and we're going to find these other two. Well, what information does it give us? It says theta terminates in quadrant 3. So I'm going to write something like this. Theta is in quadrant 3. And I think of that E as like an N. E, like En. Theta in quadrant 3. I don't know. It kind of sounds like that's the way I remember it. Okay, so theta is in quadrant 3. And so if I draw my coordinate plane, I'm going to give myself a mock angle to work with. And I'm going to put it in yellow in the third quadrant. Now, something I can do here. Yesterday we worked with drawing these little triangles. And so I'm going to complete this triangle to make this a 90-degree angle here. How does that help me? Well, what that helps me do is now I remember that the sine of theta is equal to y over r, right? SEER, S-Y-R, SEER. And so if that's negative 5 over 13, let's fill that in. Well, which one is y? I remember that my vertical axis is y. And so when I go ahead and draw this, this is going to be negative 5 coming down this way. Does that make sense? Let's see. Yes, it does, because it's below the x-axis. And then my r is going to be 13. Okay, so already I have x, y, and r. I'm outlining here. I've got r is 13, y is negative 5. How do I know that it's negative 5? I drew my triangle, and I can see that when it terminates in quadrant 3, my y must be negative. I don't know what my x is yet. But if I can find my x, I will have all three pieces and I can figure out what we're doing. So let's see. The general equation. All right. Now we fill in what we know. 13 squared is equal to negative 5 squared plus, let's erase this. We'll go in order for clarity's sake. 13 squared is equal to x squared plus negative 5 squared. Simplify. 169 is equal to x squared plus 25. Now we're simply solving an equation that's pretty easy. And so if I subtract 25 from both sides, with the goal to get x by itself, I've got x squared is equal to 144. And we of course know that 12 would be equal to x. So what I've got here is my x is equal to 12. Well, what does that do for me? That really helps me to break through, because now I can find cosine and tangent. Because I remember that cosine of theta is equal to x over r, which is 12 over 13. And the tangent of theta is x over y. And so y over x. I was thinking of the cotangent. This is y over x. And that's going to give me negative 5 over 12. These are my trig ratios for this angle. And how do I know that I'm in quadrant 3? Well, I've taken precautions to make sure that I've got my 5 in the right place. It's negative 13 and then 12 here. What do we notice though? We notice that the x is 12. Well, what does that do for us? Where do we come in counter with that? Remember, when we're dealing with a squared, this is plus or minus 12. Because isn't negative 12 squared also 144? And so when we take these precautions and check our work, we notice that this one's negative, but also 12 should be negative because it's in quadrant 3. And so a small change that I need to go back and make is to make these negative. Well, how does that change my answer? Well, it eliminates the negative on these because a negative divided by negative is a positive. So the tangent is really just 5 over 12. But the cosine is now going to be negative, okay? And so a precaution that you need to take is to make sure that you're considering both options and check it using your diagram over here, okay? That's finding trig ratios in a nutshell. Thanks for watching.